What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Consistency Show. I wanted to go on live a little bit early so I can allow people to post questions or say hi. That's interesting how it does that. I'm posting my chat messages on Restream, and then its message comes up twice. That's kind of weird. That's a vid. So the intention behind, well, the topic of today's show is going to be real ID. So okay. Let's see if it does it again. Yeah, so the topic today is real ID, and I didn't do extensive research. I did general basic information, research, and the reason why I didn't go all in is because I don't really think based on based on how I look at it, I don't really think that there's a need to go into it in depth. Oh, hot sauce. So I don't think there's really a need to go in depth. But yeah, I'm gonna wait till 9 o'clock exactly and give people time to kind of like stroll in, say hello. So if you see me kind of looking away or dealing with something else, not because I'm totally ignoring you guys. It's just that I'm giving people time to get in. No, no, put it right there. I'm just gonna put this. Good chance, okay? Thank you. H. Alrighty then. So streaming has proven to be a very time sensitive or very, how would I say, a situation where it seems easy but it definitely isn't. And in order for you to actually be able to keep up or even be relevant, you have to do your homework. Not only do you have to do your homework, but you have to dedicate yourself to making sure you execute um tasks according to your agenda. And when I say agenda, I hope nobody misinterprets agenda as being something negative, but to reach your objective, and reach your deadlines, accomplish your goals, things of that nature. But yeah, it's also satisfying when you're able to complete those tasks and reach those goals, or just meet deadlines and things like that. It makes you feel good. It kind of sucks when you're trying to get something done and it's not working out the way you hoped it would, simply because you were ignorant, or you just and in my opinion, ignorant isn't a bad word. Just you didn't know. You didn't understand. You didn't know what to expect. So due to the fact of experience, lack of knowledge. You know, you expected a specific outcome, but it wasn't a realistic outcome based on the fact that you had no experience. You just watch people, and from you watching people, now you see, oh, wait a minute, it's not that simple, not that easy. Going on over here? Why is the not chat not reaching there? That's weird. That's weird how that works. I guess. Okay, let me fix this. All right. So yeah. So yeah, I still got a couple minutes. Let me go ahead and snickety snack while I wait. But yeah, I pulled up a couple of things. I have some videos on YouTube that I watched, and I'll point them out. I'll reference them, but I'm not gonna. I'm not sure on. I need to find out for sure, but I'm not sure if I should play them. I know that if I'm gonna play them, I shouldn't play them in their entirety, obviously. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that works out. All right, we got 7 more minutes. I definitely am gonna work on. See, that's something like, for example, one of the things that I'm talking about is for let's just say as an example, if I wanted to like I want to eventually, you know, as time progresses, I would like to have an intro, a nice intro for the show so that it shows nice introduction, you know what I'm saying? Something catchy, something that explains more or less what the objective is and things like that, things of that nature. When you guys come to the show and the time comes, go ahead and let that intro play, and you guys can kind of you know, get a heads up and know exactly what you're getting yourself into when you come here. And that's not to say that there's anything negative or anything, extensive or complicated going on here. But it's good to know, good to be transparent, in my opinion. So when you come here, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. You know the rules. You understand the concept. You understand the perspective. You understand the objective. So we're not here just, acting a fool, being rude to each other in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, we got 6 more minutes. All right, let me try to complete. Let me see if I can finish my meal before time starts. 2 minutes. All right, let me go put this plate away, and I will be right back. Put this plate away, get a drink of water, and wipe my mouth, and I'll be right back. Get started. Alrighty then. All right. Sorry that I showed my tuchus. I apologize for that. Now the now the burping starts from my gastritis. Should be able to manage that though. Hmm. I just that pretty interesting. Pretty. All right. So here we are. We're at 8:59. We might as well go ahead and start transitioning. First, I'd like to say hi, everyone. I am Consistency, and you're at the Consistency Show. This is day two. Day one was just an introduction. I ended up having some dialogue with the viewer, and so today we're gonna officially discuss Real ID. Now, we're only gonna talk about it in a very, how would I say, general sense, and the reason why is because I don't feel like things need to be complicated. I feel like they need to be very simple and very direct and very straightforward. Now, let's not get caught up in extremes because it was real easy for me to generalize something and say, well, if the intention of something is this, but that's not what it does in a general sense, and then someone throws out an extreme out there to try to justify the intention, is kind of outlandish. It's not a fair assessment or a fair, how would I say, a fair comeback. Because if I'm giving you a general understanding of something, then there should be a general response. Now, if we want to go to the extremes, then we can go to the extremes, but let's discuss it as an extreme, not as a general topic. All right, as a general, how would I say, not general topic, but as a general situation. So, the Real ID, for those who don't know, the Real ID Act is HR 1268. It was signed in 2005 by President by the president at the time, which was George Bush, and it was passed without a hearing. So it wasn't really, based on the information that I've retrieved and the research that I've done, it wasn't really voted on per se, but it did pass. It did get signed. Well, it got signed and it got passed. This is what I mean by I'm not gonna go into it in detail because each one of these things can be discussed, but I don't want to focus on those things for what they are. So, with that said, based on the research that I've done, it was passed without a hearing, and it's being imposed on the states. So the federal government is imposing this act on the states, to create a real ID, and that's what they're calling it, is a real ID. And to be clear, this was on HR 1268, which the name of that, well, the proposed, it's weird because it says the Emergency Supplemental Appropriations Act of for Defense, the Global War on Terror, and Tsunami Relief 2005. So this was in 2005. This initially was rolled out, right? So it was thrown. The Real ID Act was thrown in this. So now the title is Improved Security for Driver's Licenses and Personal Identification Cards, right? So if you read through this, I mean, let me go ahead and switch scenes. So now I have a couple things up here that, in my opinion, I mean, I have a couple browsers up here that I'm using. This video was something that I was watching, but for example, this is the Real ID Act Title 2. So it's telling you it's a HR 1268, and then it's telling you Title 2. This is Title 2 of this HR. So the HR is 1268, but this is Title 2 of that HR. And then it's telling you the sections. Section is the definitions. So now, if you go through this whole process, this whole document, it doesn't clearly tell you how this is supposed to be effective. Like, it's telling you what their intentions are with this, but it doesn't prove, or it doesn't give you any evidence of how this is supposed to work. They're just telling you, yeah, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna take away this and we're gonna take away that. So for example, the Real ID is basically a stricter way to get an identification card. So the current ID that you have, or the current driver's license that you have, probably is not gonna be enough anymore. What's gonna end up happening is that you're gonna use that specific ID, and with that specific ID, you're gonna also have to implement other documentation to basically prove your identity that you've already, if that makes any sense. So those documents that you have right now, your driver's license and anything else that you have, birth certificate, social security card, passport, all those documents, you need to use every single one of those things. Proof of citizenship, proof of address, proof, I mean, every and anything that you have. You're supposed to use all those documents collectively to 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 be able to have, or to be able to have the documents necessary for you to qualify for a Real ID. So basically what that means, if we look at it in a general sense, is that everything that you already have, technically, if the intention is for this to be a real ID, like an identification card that is federally mandated, it's being federally mandated. And the way that they're federally mandating this is that they're basically providing federal grants to the states that implement this. So they'll give the federal, they'll give the states, or when I hear they'll give the states federal grants, what I hear is politicians are going to make money off of this by posing it or by complying. And obviously, it's not in the best interest of the people, because, in my opinion, if this was in the best interest of the people, it would be something that would be transparent, discussed, and would be more of a discussed topic, as to understand the implementation and the effectiveness, or the purpose and the effectiveness of it. Because as of now, if you just simply look at this and you take the time out to look at, the HR, you look at, for example, this is what it says here on the, this is the Department of Homeland Security, right? This is the federal agency that's basically that's rolling this out. So it says secure driver's licenses and identification documents are a vital component of a holistic national security strategy. So holistic seemed like a word for me that I was like, wait a minute. But it just means to be a complete part of the national security strategy, right? So law enforcement must be able to rely on government issued identification documents and know that the bearer of such a document is who he or she says claims to be, right? So now, what they're basically saying is that with all the documents that you currently have right now, you could falsify, or you could lie and say those things are or are not you, right? Which it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't make any sense because, for example, you're going to use all these documents that you're saying that aren't good enough to create this new document that you're saying is the one, right? And that's where, and that's what I mean by make it simple. I can make it really simple, and that's what I mean by make it simple. Let's look at it like that. You're claiming that this document is the one. This is the one that's gonna stop any and everyone from being able to slip through the cracks. This is the one, right? But you're telling everyone that they have to get all these previous documents to be able to justify that, or to be able to qualify for that specific one. Which, if people were able to get the previous documents without any issues to do what has been done already, don't I don't see how it wouldn't how it wouldn't happen again, you know? So for example, one of the reasons why this was implemented or suggested or even just imposed was because 9/11. 9/11 happened, and the I guess the official story, based on the official story, they're saying that we need stricter identification standards, or we need stricter yeah, basically like stricter standards for identification, because the hijackers allegedly had multiple different types of IDs of a specific state where they were, running around in, or whatever the case may be. But that's the thing that kind of confuses me. It's like we're saying that they got them, we're saying that they had them, but we're not discussing how. See what I'm saying? Like, we're not discussing how. We're skating past how they got these documents, and we're going straight to, well, they got them, so we need to fix it. We need to change it. So now, if we don't discuss that, it's an issue because of the fact that the same way that they got that original document or the previous document to be able to do what they did previously, let's just say, and this is completely hypothetical and this is completely alleged. I'm not saying this is true. But if, let's just say, those hijackers were able to get those documents with the help of someone that works either at those agencies or indirectly knew someone at those agencies, and they were able to get those documents through that type of connection. If they were able to do that for that type of connection, for that type of situation, what makes what makes me think that they're not going to be able to do it for this type of situation? You know what I'm saying? And that's just hypothetical. So with that being said, we don't know 100% what happened as far as them getting the ID. So how can we implement a solution without truly knowing what the problem is? We're just throwing a bunch of solutions out there, and we're going to implement them and get government funding or federal funding, and that's what it looks like to me. Like, it's just about money. They're going to get a whole bunch of money, and because the federal government is able to get money from the Federal Reserve based on however it is that they end up making it happen, because they just do what they want, and they get all this money, so then they can, in the name of national security or in the name of safety or however it is that you want to look at it, they're going to be able to print up or poke up punch up a bunch of digits on a computer, and basically provide federal grants to certain states, and then basically those states have these digits, and then those digits to the average person looks like money, and people use it to try to purchase, because it does have purchasing power right now still, and we don't know how long that's going to be for. Nobody's discussing that either, because America is in debt, people. We are in debt. Like, we are in severe debt, and that doesn't seem to be the topic of discussion at all on the news ever. On the I mean, on on the mass media. Is that what it's called? The mass media or called mainstream media? So it's like mainstream media talks about celebrities and somebody learned how to do a new dance or whatever. I mean, this is what I saw on Twitter. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have those types of conversations or those topics shouldn't be discussed, but the most important topics aren't being discussed. Those topics, I mean, if you got to talk about it. So these topics are not being discussed, right? So now I checked on Twitter, and I was on Twitter looking around, and just to see if I saw anything interesting to talk about. So there was a post on Twitter talking about this female or this individual that ended up checking a box on a immigration form, I believe. I, okay, so I don't know the full details, but just by reading the title, to me, it was ridiculous. So based on my understanding, this individual was coming into the country as a visitor, right? So they had their documentation, they were good to go, they were traveling in, and in a document that you get, I forget what it's called, but it's like a visitation document that you fill out to declare what if you have certain items that you shouldn't be having and certain amount of money and things of that nature. So I forget what it's called, and I apologize, but basically it's a document declaring your status and your intentions for visiting. So now you also have to put like the address you're going to and things of that nature. So on this document, there's a box on there, or there's a question on there that asks, "Are you a terrorist?" So this individual ended up checking the box, I'm assuming accidentally. And the reason why I say I assume accidentally is because if a, if there's people that have bad intention and are trying to be sneaky about their bad intention are not gonna make it obvious what they're doing. If someone is trying to if someone has bad intentions and they don't care, then that's different. But the majority of these alleged terrorists are they're not out in the open. They're very discreet until the moment comes where when it's time to go. So it's like, are they really gonna answer that question? So I used it and I retweeted it and I said it's crazy how it's really that simple for them to provide a deterrent by saying, okay, well, we'll just ask questions to make sure that we'll use the honor code or the honor somebody told me it, but I just forgot how to say it. But basically, we'll we'll base this question on an honor rule, and hope that the person that's gonna come in here with the negative intentions is gonna honor the question and answer it, you know, honestly. And it's like, wait a minute, but then all of us that live in this country, they want us to jump through all these hoops to prove. I don't to prove what? You know what I'm saying? Like to prove that we're not ill intentioned, to prove that we say who we say we are, that we are who we say we are. And it's like, wait a minute. I was watching one of the videos, for example, and I forgot his name. But one of the videos that I was watching, the gentleman was talking about that he agrees with identification. Now, to that, I'll say this. When it comes to identification, right, we have to be careful. And the reason why I say we have to be careful is because why are you identifying yourself? Why are you choosing to give yourself a title? Because what you're doing when you identify yourself is you're giving yourself a title, right? So now when people say, "What's your name is a title. Because if not, you'd be you. So if you look at me, you can see that I'm me. But now if I'm using my voice and I make a noise to try to identify you, I can't make the same noise that I would use to identify you, to identify somebody else, because then multiple people would look at me. You know what I'm saying? So let's just say there's 10 people and all of you, and my simple understanding is to make a specific noise and I'd be able to speak to someone specifically. But then all 10 people know the same thing. So now when I make that noise, all 10 of them look around, and I really didn't want all 10 of them to look. I just wanted one specific person to do it. So with that understanding, I see the intention or the purpose of having what we would call a name. But again, a name is still a title, right? So now that you have a name, right? You don't have one name. Based on a common understanding of natural law and federal laws and things of that nature, and a little bit of research doing of the history of what a name is, or how names came from, or what are their intentions. The understanding is that, or my understanding of the information is that you have a given name, which is what we would understand to be our first name. So there's a difference between a given name and a first name. Given name is what your creators, which would be the man and woman that created you, the is the name that your creator gave you, so that they can be able to communicate with you or be able to acknowledge you specifically. And then the second name or the last name, well, in generally you would have a family name and a given name. So your family name would be, let's just say, whatever what your family name is what we understand our given name to be. I mean our family name, sorry. Our family name is what we understand our last name to be, right? So again, first name and last name are distinctly different, especially in the legal realm, than given and family name, right? So a given name is very common and very simple and very direct. It's a given name by your creators, right? The family name is from the family that you came from. So you came from the unity of a male and a female. They got together. They, what we would understand to be, got married, and they unified and created you. So now you have your given name by them, and then the family name that basically is inherited, right? So that's just a general understanding and talking about things directly, right? So if you look at it like that, then now when you start looking at the fact that you have to provide these documents, think about this: your first name and your last name. First and last name. That is something that normally, I'm not sure if anyone has ever started a business or created documents or filled out documents to create a business and establish the business, whether it's an LLC, a corporation, I mean, yeah, an LLC or anything of that nature, right? When you do those documents, that company has to have a name because they have to identify it just like people identify each other. So it's a title. So the title of the company or the name of the company is the same thing. So now the name of the company has a first and last name. That's how company names work. You have a first and a last name. So that's the significance. That's the distinguishing factor between first and last name and given and family name. So now these titles we're given titles to kind of continue on a path, right? We're getting distracted and manipulated to go from these documents that to them proven to be effective previously, but it doesn't seem like they're being like that these implementations are as effective now. So things are changing, right? So this real ID thing, if you look at it, it says real ID. So what you're saying is that everything before this is not real, but we need everything that we had before this to create this real ID, right? So it's almost like you're incriminating yourself. You're creating something so that you can incriminate yourself. So you're volunteering all this information so that there's no need to ask you questions. There's no need because you've already provided the information. You've consented to being to having the information available to those that you've provided it to. So once they have that information, there's really no turning back. They can do with it whatever they want, whatever they like. Now, if we use the honor rule, we would hope that those who we give this information to and those who claim to have good intentions with the information would not do the wrong thing. But that's not something you can control. That's not something you can manage because you're not there to manage it. So what ends up happening? I mean, we've seen it in many situations in many environments. It it happens. There's the human error. You can't avoid it. There's human error. And the human error doesn't mean that someone made a mistake, a genuine mistake. I'm talking about the genuine the ill-intentioned human error. Especially when people are very deceitful. They do something purposely and act like they didn't know. They didn't get it. They couldn't comprehend or they couldn't fathom something like that happening. Which happened with 9/11. You know, all these things happen and I'm not going to discuss what how I feel about it and at least not in this show, but all these things happen which means that there was a lot of things that didn't happen in order for the situation to turn out the way it did. So if you have people in certain positions that are supposed to prevent something like this from happening, and yet it happens, and then at the end of the day, nobody gets fired or reprimanded or, I mean, a slap on nothing. There's no slap on the hand. There's nothing, nothing. So in my opinion, when you see that, it's like, where's the accountability? There's no accountability. So if there's no accountability when it comes to a situation like that, how can you believe that there's genuinely going to be accountability for information that you're just you're volunteering it and you're consenting to it being volunteered because every time you offer information, you have to sign documents to give people the right to basically go through your information. And keep in mind that when you ask for an ID, when you ask for this, when you ask for that, you're asking for permission for something. And then you sign to verify that you've just given up your authority to someone else. That's why you're signing. You're creating a contract. And it's a lot of it is manipulation. It has a lot to do with words, lack of understanding of the language that we use. Because I mean, from when we're little, we know we speak English, right? But then is the language that we speak. Let me check something out real quick. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop, but I just want to verify that my sound is good to go. All right, let me see. I have to kind of change this. Check this out. Because, all right. All right, so this sound. All right, good, 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 good. All right, so where was I? So language, yes. Sorry. So language, we since we're little, we taught what English is generally. We're using words generally in a general sense, but we're not taught legalese. We're not taught the financial lingo. We're not taught a lot of these situations that, because of legalese, even in the financial realm, there is legalese in the financial realm based on the fact that in order for you to understand what these institutions are doing, these the banking institutions, the banking companies are doing, because remember everything's a contract. So these contracts, you have to get into them. You have to consent, and once you sign, that's it. You've given up your right to challenge, and the only way for you to challenge is that now you have to prove your innocence. You know what I'm saying? So it's no longer a fair game. You've given up your ability to challenge, and it goes further than that. It's prior to that. It's even deeper than that. But here I go off on a tangent. But I'm kind of going different places to try to encompass this whole thing, which might not be a good approach. But I hope that I'm gonna definitely see kind of feedback I get. We'll see. So sorry, I got got a little distracted there. Um, so yeah, so the language, if you think about it, we have to use the proper definition of these words, and we don't use words in their with their definition. And then that's another thing. When we speak about language, some words have multiple definitions. So if we're not honest with ourselves, we can easily get manipulated by others. You know what I'm saying? So if we know that there's a word that exists and it has multiple meanings, then we don't. A lot of times we have an ego and we don't want to look stupid, so we'll just say yeah, or we'll just make it seem like we understand when we don't. And because we don't want to look stupid, we end up losing in a situation, because that's what happens. You'll end up losing in that situation because you've just been manipulated based on the fact that they used the word in a manner in which you didn't comprehend the intention. Because if 99.9% of the people comprehended exactly what was happening, a lot of the stuff that's happening right now would not continue. Stop. It would cease. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about the ID, right? Let me go back to the ID, right? So I went to the deep end. Now I'm coming back, which I shouldn't have done, but I did it. So now the identification, right? Let's just say identification, right? We've come to the point where we don't trust nobody. So we don't trust nobody. So we need to create a document. Everyone needs to carry a document that it identifies you and clarifies who you are, meaning your name and where you live. So where to find you, basically who you are, how old you are, and where you live. So with that information, that's supposed to be enough information for people to be satisfied with knowing that that's the right person, right? Now think about that. We created an identification, right? It's a document to identify people. We tell people to carry it. Prior to this document being created, people didn't have it. Situations happened, and people had to figure it out, right? So, for example, if something happened to me, let's just say, and I know who the person was, I know what they look like, but then come to find out there's a similar person that looks like the person that I thought did something to me, right? In that situation, how is an ID going to help? Because if I saw the person, I didn't see their ID. I didn't get their ID. They didn't give me that identification. So how can I identify the two? Well, how can I clarify that it's one or the other, right? So now someone's going to go off the deep end and they're going to say, oh, well, based on their identification, you can see if, you could do a background check and find out their information and see what kind of person they are. So then you can be able to identify who it could have been. That's that's a safe assessment. That's a safe bet, or a safe, analogy or assumption. That could be a good thing. But how effective is that? That's not ironclad. That's just an assumption based on information. So you're using information to make an assessment, which means that what if the one that didn't have a bad background just went off the deep end and wanted to go postal? It was just their day. So now they're gonna get away with murder or get away with whatever they did simply because That's the one. He's the one. He looks like the one, or she, whatever. That person looks like they did it. So let's focus on that one. See what I'm saying? So it doesn't genuinely help, right? So now they want to implement this real ID thing, right? Which takes it a step further. So they're trying to say that we want to they're gonna have facial recognition connected to this. So you're gonna have to take a digital picture, a high definition digital picture, and it's basically gonna have like all the like your face, like every nook and cranny of your face, so that they can be able to identify you anywhere. I mean, that's what I think it is. It's gonna be so that they can identify you wherever. So, for example, if all this information gets intertwined together, and let's just say you you uh you forgot to pay a bill, your toll bill. You forgot to pay your toll bill, not because you forgot, but you went through a toll. For some reason, your account didn't and I'm going off the deep end, but your account didn't how is it? Is it that it does it basically puts more money in there. Like after a certain amount, it refills. There you go. Your account didn't refill, and for some reason now you owe a bill. So you didn't know. Time went by. So now you have that bill. So all of a sudden, this information is attached to that information, and you're not concerned about it because you didn't know about it, and not only that, you're probably not using it because you're doing something else with your life. Let's just say, let's just say this is a hypothetical, right? If that person didn't genuinely try to evade, but yet this information is just saying that this is what this person has done, how is it that that's going to determine how that's going to be treated? Because if you have a real ID, and let's just say, how does this identify a terrorist? That's my curiosity. Or that's my question. My question is, how does this identify a terrorist? So how does this identify anyone's intentions? It can identify their history. It can identify the name if that person decides to, you know what I mean? Like their name, their address, ethnic background. I mean, it can identify several information, but it cannot identify a person's intention. And that's my thing. Like this, in my opinion, has been pushed because of fear. So I get the fear. I get it. I get that there's a concern. But why not implement something that genuinely is going to work? That genuinely, based on the fact that we've looked in every nook and cranny, and we've researched and assessed situations based on reality, based on what has happened and why it happened, so that then we can try to figure out what to do to mitigate what did happen. Because if we just say that there's a problem, I mean, okay, I have a solution. But what's the problem? We don't know what the problem is. How can we effectively apply a solution? You know what I'm saying? And that's a very vague way to look at it. But I mean, if you think about it with the whole 9/11 thing, with the this was signed in 2005, right? But think about it. I mean, 4 years after 9/11. And now is when they're trying to push for it. So that means that since 2005, states haven't really been complying with it. They haven't really accepted accepted this for what it was or for what it is. So people are fighting it, but it's coming to the point where so many people are complying or making or it's being made seem they're trying to manipulate people to think that it's being accepted or received with open arms, so that the rest of those who don't consider it to be a good thing, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a manipulation tactic. So and then they're using these the fact that they're saying that it's And this is the thing that to me is manipulative and shouldn't be taken lightly. They're openly telling you that this is voluntary, right? But then in the same sentence, in the same sentence, they'll tell you that if you don't get this, you're not going to be able to uh, deal with anything having to do with federal. So it's a federally mandated situation that if that the states are that the states don't have to do, but if the states don't do it, they're not going to receive certain federal funding for this, for them to do this. And then those who don't have this will not be able to basically travel domestically, wouldn't be able to, not to, I mean, this may not affect everyone, but it'll affect people. And that's what I'm so let's look at that, right? It'll be federally mandated. So it's federally mandated and it's basically telling you that if I'm sorry, I got distracted. So if you don't get it, even though the states are telling you that it's not a mandatory thing, but if you don't get it, you won't be able to go into a federal building or you won't be able to deal with federal situations. So if you wanted to go to a military installation, if you wanted to fly domestically or you wanted to use a bus to go from here to the next state, whatever the case may be, anything having to do with the federal government, if you don't have this federally mandated identification, the federal government or those federal agencies will not accept identification that is not the real ID. So that's the manipulation that I'm trying to point out. They're manipulating the majority of people. They're forcing you. You know what I'm saying? Like they're forcing you to make a decision. And the most favorable one in a situation like this for the majority, like for example, if you have a job and you're traveling every so often, and that's what your job requires you to do, you're not gonna argue or fight it. You're gonna conform because you don't want to lose your lifestyle. You don't want to lose your income. You don't want to lose what you got going simply because you didn't decide to get a piece of paper or a document that you felt like there was no like you felt there was no it wasn't a big deal. But the only reason why you would feel that way in that situation is because you don't understand what's going on. You don't understand the magnitude of it. Like you don't know the politics of it. All you know is that this thing that's happening is affecting me my work. It's affecting my livelihood. So because this is my problem is not the fact that it's invading my privacy. My problem is not the fact that it isn't effective or there's no true reason for me to get it. That's not the problem. The problem at that moment is I have a job. My job requires me to travel. If I don't have this real ID, I won't be able to travel domestically. So that's your problem. So that's what you're going to focus on. And the way that you're going to solve that problem, because that's your problem at that moment, is let me just get it. And no one along the way is going to explain to you what's really going on. That's the sad thing. That you go to the DMV and the DMV is not going to explain to you the situation. They're not going to tell you that they're not going to tell you that there's no other way. They're going to tell you that the only way to do it is to get the real ID. That's all they're going to tell you. You know what I'm saying? And then I mean, not social. I, I just forgot it. Damn it. Not the mass media. What the hell is it called? I just forgot it and I just remembered it and now I forgot it again. What is it called? What is it called? Not the social media, not the mass media. Jesus Christ. The media. Let's just say the media. The media doesn't discuss it for what it is. I've seen information on YouTube that has been way more descriptive with evidence explaining what the situation is. The media doesn't do that. The media just tells you, oh, it's just what it simply is just a better ID. Is it really a better ID? Or is it a more intrusive ID? Because I mean, I'll go back to how I started. Let's discuss it for what it is. This is simply another identification, which means you're going to have to spend more money for another identification when you've already spent money for the previous identification. And with the previous identification, it was an individual identification separate from everything else, which is how it should be. Because when you're dealing with one thing, it should be that one thing that you're dealing with. When you're dealing with something else, it should be that one thing that you're dealing with. Not I'm dealing with the federal government. They want all my information from the state, from whatever, from this, from that, all of that stuff. It should that's not how it's supposed to be. See what I'm saying? Like that's like me going to McDonald's and Burger King asking me to pay them as well because I'm in a burger joint. I have to pay them as well. Or I have to give them, if I like McDonald's, let's just say I like McDonald's and I give them a good rating, I have to say that Burger King's good too. I have to provide them information as well, give them a feedback simply because I like burger joints. So I should like all burger joints. I don't know if that's a good analogy. Maybe I messed that up. But hey, it's the intention that counts, I believe. I hope. Yeah, moving on. Nothing to see here. Keep it moving. All right. So it's that's my ultimate point. My ultimate point is that there is no identification. There's no identification document because that's what an ID identification document ID identification document. There's no identification document that's gonna be able to effectively. That's there's no identification document that would ever be able to clarify a person's intention. There's no way. So now, when you say an identification document can be able to verify the person's identity, so then I can look up information on that person and see what that person's about. And to that, I say this: that hasn't worked yet. It hasn't worked because the people that have those ill intentions and are trying to do ill will, they're not. If they are that easy to find, then a lot of things would have never happened. And if you're saying that that is a fact, then that leads me to believe that things that have happened is because we've allowed them to happen. Because if you're telling me that based on an identification document, I can be able to effectively research the individual based on the fact that I verified their identity. And with that identity, I can look up all the information, have access to all the information, and be able to know what the person's intention is so that I can prevent a situation from happening. If you're telling me that that's a fact or that's a situation that is 100% accurate, then the situation has not changed. All the information that's being provided to create a real ID is information that already exists. So if it hasn't been able to happen currently, but yet you're telling me that it's going to happen now that we have this new identification that is using the same information, you're either lying, you're being manipulative, you're using word magic. It's not good. I don't see any good intentions behind that. I don't see anything positive. All I see is negative. I see lies, I see deceit, I see manipulation, I see deception. Jesus. I mean, I don't even ugh. It's like, really? And it sucks because the majority of people don't see what's going on because it's like the example that I gave about the person that has a job and the situation that they see on their end is I need to get this real ID or if not, I'm not going to be able to travel and my job's going to fire me because I'm not able to travel or they're going to demote me or whatever the case may be. So that's what the situation is for that person. So they don't see the rest of it. And then the majority of people aren't 100% knowledgeable because they listen to what's it called? They listen to the media, and the media simply puts it as a better ID. That's how they simply put it. Which the media doesn't show you details. They don't give you an explanation. They don't give you a breakdown. And when I say that, I'm talking about this specific situation. There's no reasoning. They don't explain the reasoning behind it. They don't explain, you know, like the actual details of the situation. So it's like, really, you're just shoving something down my throat. You want me to just accept it? And to me, that's not. To me, I don't. I'm not that type of person. But the majority of people just want to hear something. They're like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. All right, good. All right, now I know. Now I'm informed. And that's because some people rely on this information due to the fact that they don't have time to look up the information. And it's sad because leading down a leading down a path that I don't know, just doesn't seem like a positive one. And it sucks because if especially if you got kids, it sucks because what are we leaving to our what are we leaving to our kids? Like what type of environment are our kids gonna be raised in, or how are they gonna be able to fend for themselves? You know? Something that something that probably isn't best for me to point out in this episode or this show, I should say. I'm not gonna start episodes until I get the hang of doing the shows, and I feel like I'm doing good, and I feel like my shows are to my standard. Then I'll start doing episodes, make it more like a podcast. But for now, I just want to have a talk show. So it's you have to think about it like this, or you should think about this. There's this guy called Mark Passio. You guys should check him out. I recommend you watch his videos with an open mind and just be open minded to it. There's certain things that are going to be said in his videos or in his lectures or however you want to look at it. There's certain things that are going to be in there that might be sensitive to the average person, but the information, in my opinion, is worth listening to. Certain things are going to be a little bit over the top, or I should say, just for some or for most, they just may not be realistic to you, or they may not be something that's, yeah, realistic. But don't allow that to get in the way of the message, because, in my opinion, he has a great message. The the information, since I haven't researched it myself, I don't have the I haven't had the time. I definitely don't have the resources that maybe he has. As far as, and what I mean by resources is I don't know the people, or I may not have access to the I guess the information that he was able to acquire in order for him to come to the conclusion that he's come to. But at the end of the day, I can appreciate his message, you know. And Jet, I can see his point when it comes to certain things. And one of the things that I do 100% agree with is that a lot of people don't see it this way, but we're living, we're in an environment that is a slave environment. So, for example, just think about everything you need to do and how it needs to be done, when it needs to be done, all those things. Think about it. Think about how if you don't do this, there's a consequence. If you don't do that, there's a consequence. And all these things that you're thinking about that need to get done and have a consequence are not something that comes from you yourself. It comes from something outside of you, right? So, for example, don't misinterpret what I'm saying with having moral responsibility or an ethical responsibility. It's simply because if it's simply saying that when you if you wake up in the morning, right? You wake up in the morning and you have to I'm going to try to break it down as fast as I can. So, you wake up in the morning, you ideally would have a job, go to work. You do well, you would have to get ready, look a certain way, you know, be hygienic with certain things. And it's just there's already a criteria. There's already a criteria. So that criteria you have to follow it in order for you to fit in. So now you do what you can to fit in. But even when you fit in, that's not enough because now that you fit in, you have to keep up with not what you're trying to fit in with, other things that mean other things that dictate how to fit in. And it just keeps going. Like there's just more and more and more and more that you got that you find out as you go along. So like a very uh a very simple way for me to put it is think about when you're a kid. You have no responsibilities. As you grow up, you don't have any responsibilities until the day that you graduate. And this is a general situation. Once you graduate, some kids would leave the house and start their own life or go to college, however it is. So then when you become an adult or when you are now graduate and leave the house and you're on your own, you learn new things, which is outside of you. Because when you don't have responsibilities, you wake up. If you have chores, you do your chores. If you got to take a shower, you take a shower because you stink. If you got to eat, you got to eat because you're hungry. If you got to sleep, you sleep because you're tired. You know, that's it. See what I'm saying? So now that we become of a certain age or try to be independent, you're never really 100% independent because as soon as you try to do something for yourself, for example, let's just say you live in your parents' house, you're an adult, or you're of age, you graduate, you start you start looking for a job. Or let's just look at it like this. I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna do it the work way, not the school way, because that's another top. I mean, that's another path. But I'm gonna go. Let's just say you're 18 now. You wanna live on your own. You wanna get a job. You wanna start your life, right? So your intention is to get a job. So you get a job, right? So prior to that, you didn't have any responsibilities but to make sure you maintained yourself. So if if you had a certain upbringing, you would make sure you work out so you can, maintain your physical strength and health, right? So you would eat right, you would sleep, you would, you know, wake up at a certain time, get your physical fitness done, and just rinse and repeat. You do that over. Hygiene, obviously, those things, right? So now, once you be, now once you're of age and you want to be independent, you try to be independent. You start to leave. You don't leave. You stay in your parents' house and you say, you know what, let me get a job so I can start to save up so then I can have my own place, right? So now you get a job, but that job that you get, what happens? In that job, you have to pay taxes, right? It's not a question. It's not a what it was intended to be, a volunteer thing, to a volunteer act for you to support something you believe in. It is no longer that. It is a mandatory thing that you don't have a choice. And if you decide to do things otherwise, then there's consequence, right? So it went from voluntary to mandatory. All right. So now you have to do that, right? So you do it, no problem. So now you want to try to acquire a place. In order for you to acquire a place, you have to establish credit. If you don't have credit, it'll damn near be impossible for you to get a place for you to rent unless you're going to buy one. And you can't do that without credit. And what is credit? Credit is something outside of you. It has nothing to do with you. You have to show someone that you're responsible enough to pay them back because you're guilty until proven innocent. So you have to live outside of yourself. You have to live and conform to be something outside of you before you can even have the time to step back and acknowledge yourself, because you have to make some type of money to be able to survive. You have to be able to have some type of assets so that you can be able to manage, in case of an emergency. You know what I'm saying? Or in, retirement, whatever it is that you want to do, so you can live your true life for yourself. You have to create certain things within this environment prior to living for yourself, because you're living outside yourself. Everything is about conforming, 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 or living up to certain expectations that have nothing to do. You know what I'm saying? And speaking on that, if you think about it, when you reference the real ID, what is the real ID doing? It's outside of you. You've already done more than enough to prove who you are. But think about this. If I say that I am who I am, I say I'm consistent, right? And I tell somebody I'm consistency, and they say no, you're not consistency. You have a first and a last name, and I say no, I have a given name and a family name. So now it becomes a conflict, right? A conflict of words, right? But there's still no situation. But at the end of the day, the ID is supposed to verify that what I say is true based on the document, or what I say matches the document. So let's just say, think about that. Let's just say the document's already created, right? It can have a fictitious thing on there. And as long as I say what that says, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. Really doesn't matter. Because it's like, I was talking to my buddy earlier about this, and it's like, let's just say you genuinely know a person. You're like, oh, this person's this, that is a dirtbag, da da da, whatever. And then all of a sudden, they have a real ID, and you're like, man, got a real ID. I had that person all wrong. But little do the people know this person's true character. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna identify the person's intention. It's just gonna make sure you know the identity of the person, not their character, not their intentions, not anything of that nature. Neither is the information associated with. Because you have to keep in mind that people that are malicious and are deceitful are not gonna be openly negative. Think about there's just so many things that I can use in examples as examples there, but let's just try to be honest with ourselves. I'm pretty sure everybody has done something that they didn't want somebody else to know. Or when you're I feel, and this is a very personal perspective. I don't mean it like it's near and dear to my heart. I just mean that I personally feel like people enjoy texting over speaking because they want to have time to assess how they respond, as opposed to speaking to someone and having to deal with the conversation then and there. They rather have the time to respond because they don't want to be in a situation where, oh wait, did I look stupid? Did I say something wrong? I guess embarrassment. But it's like, really? Like, is it that important for you to avoid a learning experience from just being able to have that situation? I mean, I get it to an extent, but we're losing ourselves in there. Like, we're losing the life experience out of genuinely having human interaction or human, you know, confrontation, and not to an extreme extent, but it's okay to have a debate. I mean, it's healthy actually. You have to know, you have to be able to agree to disagree. You have to, because how are we going to find a happy medium? You know, it's crazy to me how people. I seen some politicians talking about the real ID thing, and it's like, it doesn't. It's if you look up the meaning of certain words, and the meanings are a certain thing, but then these people that are supposed to be in a position that are supposed to understand the meaning of the words and the use of them are using these words incorrectly. You know, it's so misleading. And it's like, for example, this politician was talking and saying that the real idea is something that's being implemented tyrannically. I thought we lived in a democracy. And it's like, I don't understand how you can't see that even in a democracy, there's tyranny. And the reason why I say that is because you have to look at it, you have to look at it like this. Tyranny basically means that you just implement and impose without anyone's consent. You're just forcing it down there and they just have to accept it. They have to accept it and they have to comply, right? So now in a democracy, it's the same thing because a democracy means that the majority gets their way. So if the majority feels or thinks this way, then the minority has to suck it up and deal with it, even if they don't like it, which is tyrannical. It's the same thing. See what I'm saying? So, from what I understand, the Constitution is supposed to be from a republic, for a republic of the people. So, a republic, from what I understand, is, let me see. Well, matter of fact, let me look it up. I have a browser right here. Let's look at republic. Did I write that? Oh, I forgot the U. All right, so let's look at Webster. I mean, yeah, Merriam-Webster. A government having a chief of state who is not a monarch and is who in modern times is usually a president. All these things want to pop up, huh? A political unit such as a nation having such a form of government. Let's be all right. Let's look at B. A government in which supreme power resides in a body of citizens entitled to vote and is excited by elected officers and representatives responsible to them and governing according to law. A political unit such as a nation having a form of government. Usually specified republican government of a political unit. A body of persons freely engaged in a specific activity. So this is the definition that I remember or I understand a republic to be. Body of persons freely engaged in a specific activity. Right? So that's what I understand a republic to be. But now doesn't favor it doesn't favor us based on the environment that we're in. It doesn't favor us to know this as the number one meaning. It doesn't favor the agenda to know this as the number one meaning. It favors the agenda. I hope you guys can see it. It doesn't favor the agenda or the environment or the society. Not the society. It favors the society to know republic means a body of persons really engaged in a specified activity. Really engaged. You're open. You're doing it by choice, right? It's completely voluntary, right? Doesn't favor the agenda. Okay, doesn't favor the agenda for everyone to know that as the definition. It favors the agenda to know that the definition of republic is a government having a chief of state who is not a monarch and who in modern times is usually a president, right? But even if we have a president, right? Let's just say a republic has a president, right? And we remember the meaning, the true meaning, oh, not the true meaning, but we remember this other meaning, right? Because it's multiple meanings. And as I was saying earlier, some words have multiple meanings. That's how the language that we speak, English, can be confusing and manipulative, can be used to be manipulative. But now, if we remember this first definition, right, A1, and we keep in mind 2, which is a body of persons freely engaged in a specified activity, we have a president. So if a president or any branch of government wants to implement anything that they want to implement, that means that if we're freely engaged in this, we can decide to be a part of it, accept it, or stray away from it, not accept it, fight it, or just choose not to be a part of it. So if that's what they want to do, that's on them. The issue starts to happen is that then if you choose not to be a part of it, you become alienated. And not only alienated, but you're restricted from certain things. For example, yeah, I'm going off on a tangent, but I just want to get it off. Let me get it off. It's 10:09. I'm gonna just finish this point that I was making, and I think an hour of a show should be good. Um, I seen some people poke their heads in. Says that I have 2 viewers. I'm wondering if that's me. So I have 2 people on Twitch watching. That's awesome. I appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by. So so if we use the understanding of, where is it? Well, 2. A body of persons freely engaged in a specified activity. We use that common understanding, right? And we move forward with that. And we keep that in mind. I'm trying to think 100% about what I was talking about, and I tried to move forward with this, so I confused myself. Now I forgot what I was talking about. Excuse me. What's going on, viewer? Thanks for stopping by. I was talking about real ID, then I started getting into, the shenanigans that we go through in life, and how the English language can be used to manipulate. Damn it. I lost them. Wait, what's going on here? Why is this doing this? Okay. All right. So let's talk about the right to travel, right? If you Damn, now that I lost my train of thought, I don't want to continue because now I feel like I'm gonna go into a tangent or something else. Because the objective of the show was to talk about the real ID. I really didn't have someone to go back and forth with, and I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean just have a dialogue with, or not dialogue, have a conversation with. All right, so I'm just changing the name of the name of the voice channel that I'm creating for Discord, so that I can be able to post this on here, let you guys see it, then you guys can let me know what you think. We can actually talk about it. You guys can be involved, discuss it, you know, But yeah, I don't believe the real ID is. I don't believe that the real ID has a genuine purpose. Has I don't believe the real ID is being described with its genuine purpose. I don't believe it has been implemented with its genuine purpose being exposed or declared. So because I don't see it clearly and because it's not evident and transparent what the intentions are behind this, I don't think I don't think it's something we should support. I don't think it's something that should be supported, you know. I know I'm a little voice. I know I'm a small fry, and maybe what I'm saying right now doesn't hugely matter, but I know what I'm saying makes sense. And I hope that someone does eventually get to see my messages and get to see my points, and it can be seen for what it is as opposed to me just voicing my opinions or voicing my perspectives without it having an effect on anyone. So, with that said, um, I enjoyed this show. I enjoyed the conversation. Um, I wish there was more people around to kind of, give me some feedback. But it was, I enjoyed this. I got a lot of stuff off my chest. It may not have been all collected and well organized, and you know, but that's something that I need to work on. And as I'm doing these shows, I will definitely look at my own shows and be able to critique myself and be able to try to focus more on implementing a structure for me to have an effective message behind my shows. Because there's a purpose behind what I'm trying to do. And as I mentioned before, I'm trying to I'm trying to express myself with the intent of being able to provide people a perspective that maybe they don't have, in hopes to help. If it doesn't help you, if you already know the information, then much power to you. And if you know more, then hey, enlighten me, educate me, help me get on your level. You know what I'm saying? Because that's ultimately what it's about, is making sure we all know what's going on, making sure we all aware, making sure we're all, you know, eh, eh, I may say, corny stuff at times, but united we stand, divided we fall. You know, and right now it does look like it's a us against them. I can't really tell you who them is, but I can tell you that us is the average person out there trying to get it, trying to keep up. The average person trying to keep up is us. Them, that that's still to be determined. I mean, we can. There's so many allegeds, but there's really no reason why we should focus on the allegeds until we have the information to implicate that verifies those allegations. You know what I'm saying? So let's focus on. My focus is to inform and to get acquainted and make sure that, like I said, my perspective doesn't just stay within me. I'm able to express it. You guys can hopefully get something from it, and we can grow from there. I can grow from there, and hopefully you guys can grow from there, or you guys can help me. Just a growth. You know, it's. I've noticed that it's there's so much information out there that there's no way one person can have it all. You know, there's no way. So together we can try to help each other get as much information as possible so that we can make a well-informed decision and have a well-informed understanding on how we should be and how things need to be taken care of and handled and managed. How we're gonna live our lives, how we're gonna move forward, how we're gonna raise our kids, how we're gonna, you know, what information is well intentioned and what information isn't. know, Nowadays, if you don't question everything, you can easily get manipulated. I'm a victim of it. I've been manipulated. I can't even express how many times I've been manipulated. Still, till this day, have certain individuals attempting to manipulate my life, not just me, but my life, based on the fact that they believe that their perspective is more valuable than than facts and logic, reasoning. You know, the simplest way for me to put that is, how is it that you believe that you can tell me what to do when there's no possible way for me to tell you what to do? If there's no possible way for me to tell you what to do, then there should be no reason why you think it's okay for you to tell me what to do. That's very hypocritical. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to stuff like that, I don't agree with it. I won't entertain it, and I'm not going to engage in it. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to that, if you can't handle the fact that I'm standing up to you, but you want to put a team together, try to get people to support you, so then you can try to, like, bash me, or just try to make me seem like the crazy one because of the fact that I stood up to you. Go right ahead. I'm gonna stay firm in my position. It's not easy though. It is not easy because when you're the one against the many, if they all throw a punch and I'm the one, I'm gonna feel it all. You know what I'm saying? But when I throw a punch and it's many, I'm probably gonna hit one, maybe two if they're close to each other. You know what I'm saying? But that's the effectiveness. See what I'm saying? But when it's firm and you don't let just that's a general way to put everything. You gotta stand up. Can't you Don't let yourself be manipulated. Don't let yourself be told how things are. Find out for yourself. Make an assessment. Research. I mean, I have these browsers up because I was gonna reference whatever. If we had someone to go back and forth with, I was gonna reference whatever. I had I had the act right there, the Real ID Act up. I even have the Homeland Security page up. You know what I'm saying? I have the frequently asked questions from the Real ID. I had a couple videos that I was watching, and I had all that stuff ready in case somebody wanted to try to, just talk about it. In case somebody wanted to talk about it. Hey, let me reference this, let you hear this, so you can see a different perspective than mine. And then we can talk about how you got to your position, and I can tell you how I got to my position. And we can see what makes sense. Because it's not about, I really don't want it to be my way. It's not about it being my way. Fair is fair. Truth is truth. Lies are lies. Manipulation is manipulation. Let's call it for what it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's my true position. Let's call things for what they are. Let's expose them for what they are. You know what I'm saying? We all deserve to live our best life. And when you live in an environment of manipulation and negativity, there's no way for you to live your best life. I mean, there's people that overcome. I get it. I'm not going against it, and I'm definitely not complaining. Not complaining at all. But I'm also not gonna let it slide. I'm not gonna sit here and just be quiet. I've done that for way too long. Now it's time to talk. So I hope you guys come around. I know this is gonna make me a target, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? But yeah, I hope you guys come around. We have good conversation. You know what I mean? It's not This is not what it's gonna end up being, but we're gonna make it better. We're gonna work at it. Like I said, I'm gonna look through my shows, critique myself, build from there. You know what I'm saying? Make it better. Make sure I create an intro. Till I get that intro, we're just gonna keep shooting with what we got. I use that clear background because I want people to see that you can see it. I ain't the only one that sees it. You see that? You see that background? There's something behind there. You know what I'm saying? There's something behind there. It's blurry right now, but if I open that window, you're gonna be able to see it too. You probably can't see it right now, but let me. You see that building right there? There's a window right there. Right there, there's a window. You didn't see that, right? Because it's just blurry and there's a raindrop. But I'll help you. Don't worry about it. That's what we're here for. That's what it do. So I'm babbling, but it's all good. Because this is what I'm here. This is what my intention is to vent. Vent and create a good show, create a good environment, have fun, be able to learn something, be able to, you know what I'm saying? Like, have a good experience. You know what I'm saying? Have a new experience. But so today I feel like we got some stuff talked about. Um I spoke about what I felt like I needed to speak about as far as Real ID. You know, the crazy thing was that Real ID was presented in HR 1268, but it's not the name of the act. I mean, it's not the name of the bill. It's part of it. It was in there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But it got passed, and that's another thing. A lot of politicians, man, you gotta do your research. You gotta get into it because although you may not like politics and it may not be your thing, it affects you. It affects you. Oh my God, it does. So, you know what I mean? Wake up. Open your eyes. Open your ears. You know what I'm saying? Stop listening to the what is it called? God, I just mainstream media. There it is. You gotta. I'm not saying completely ignore it because sometimes they uh they talk about stuff that you need to look into, but that doesn't mean that they're gonna give you all the information you need. Normally, when they say this is what it is, I mean, just look into it and you'll find out that sometimes sometimes it just ain't what they say it is. So I'm gonna say thank you because I appreciate being able to be here. I appreciate having a platform. I appreciate those who swung by. And just in case you watch this, I appreciate you watching it. Uh, and just know that I'm not the only one. That came out wrong. But what I kind of meant to say with that is that I'm not the only person, or if I can do this, anyone can do this. So, you know, that's basically it. So I am consistency, right? And you gotta consist of something in order for you to stand in a sea of adversity. That's my position. That's also the way I'm gonna sign out. And who knows, I might implement that into my introduction or the outro of the show. So stay posted, people. I got more to come. I want to talk about more stuff. Gonna gather some more information. And like I said, I'm gonna critique my own show, put some structure, try to get some better structure so like that it can be straight on topic, and maybe I'll do I'll do shows, meaning I'll do episodes, have those episodes recorded and have them as podcasts. But we'll see. For now, I'm just doing the show so that I can learn, improve, you know, build a fan base, have you guys interact and be a part of the show. That'll be fun. Um, and then we'll figure out fun ways to kind of get everybody interacting and maybe even be part of the voice chat. You guys can be able to talk to me about what's going on, and we can go from there and figure out how to make that happen. But for now, I am consistency. Let's try that again. I'm gonna practice. So I am consistency, and in order, and it, all right, all right. I am consistency. You gotta consist of something in order to stand in a sea of ignorance. Ah. I initially said in a sea of ignorance, but I think it's better for me to say in a sea of adversity, right? So I am consistency, and you have to consist of something in order for you to be able to stand in a sea of adversity. You know what I'm saying? So let's do it. Consistency signing out. You guys have a nice one. Thanks for stopping by. You guys are awesome no matter what they say about you. You guys are awesome in my book. Have a good one.